Warp Core Breach, Episode 38. Who let the cat out of the box?
Captain, enemy ships decloaking off our port bow.
They're charging weapons!
Shields up, red alert!
They're firing!
Containment failure detected. Warp core breach imminent.
Welcome to Warp Core Breach. On this episode, Nick and David muse on new mechanics. Out of Arc shares their experiences with Search for Spock. Chris and Bryan share their experiences from UK Nationals. Griffin Investigates the Unknown. Industrial Light and Plastic brings their unique style to OP play. And then we all share our top stat enhancing cards.
Warning. Warp core breach detected.
Welcome to Warp Core Breach. On this episode, Nick and David muse on new mechanics. Out of Arc shares their experiences with Search for Spock. Chris and Bryan share their experiences from UK Nationals. Griffin Investigates the Unknown. Industrial Light and Plastic brings their unique style to OP play. And then we all share our top stat enhancing cards. I'm David Montgomery, and here's my co-host, the ROM to my O'Brien.
I never could figure out the point and the difference between the isolinear rods and the chips and the flakes and the bricks and the slips, and it's like, oh boy.
And the self-sealing stem bolts.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a good tongue twister. Self-sealing stem bolts. No, it's fine once. Try saying it like 5 times.
Self-sealing stem bolts. Self-sealing.
See? We got you. We are good. We are in... as we record this, it's before Nationals. As it airs, it's either during Nationals, right before Nationals, or post-Nationals. We're not sure yet. It's Schrodinger's episode timing right now.
Is it even in the box? Is the cat alive or dead? Is the box with the supposed cat in it even in existence? Are we actually pondering it or not?
See, the box has to exist, otherwise it's Schrodinger's box.
Well, how do you know it's not like Nikolaevich's box, then it's Schrodinger's cat's inside it? Or whoever.
As long as it's not Pandora's box.
Ooh, Pandora-ka.
Ooh, what if Schrodinger's cat was inside of Pandora's box?
Ooh.
That would give a lot of credence to the people that don't like cats.
Yeah. And the whole good-evil thing. Although, generally speaking, cats are good and evil.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, cats have probably got the best balance between good and evil, even over human beings. We tend to list to one side. They just ride the tightrope all the way. It's like, good, evil, good, evil.
They know when they've messed up, so they'll either go hide to try to make up for it, or they'll go cuddle because they want to make up, and when they're too good, then they're like, I need to do something to mess up.
Yeah, we should probably ask Data what he thinks on Spot.
I wonder who's taking care of Spot after Nemesis. Is it Geordi? Is it Worf?
Is Spot still around? How many kittens are there now? Well, because they survived the crash when the D-saucers landed.
Right.
So there's some kittens there.
But,
who got the kittens? Let's do some lineage here, some family tracing. We need to know these things, people. And do Spot's offspring play Star Trek Attack Wing? Table swipe.
Could they?
Hey, a cat can play. All they gotta do is jump up the table, bite, scratch, knock. You know. It's like, oh, I see that scimitar you've got there. Whap. Weapon 0? Whap. Woo, Borg Q. Leap, pounce, claw.
But
Falls
can
off
a
the
cat roll dice?
Get batted
They don't
around.
need to. They are the dice.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a legacy game.
Thunder, thunder, Thundercats, Borg! Okay, this is really crazy stuff here.
Okay, we are now way off the rails.
Well, since we're in Dreamland, let's start to focus our dreams, kind of like a holodeck program here, and figure out what our dream mechanic for a Star Trek Attack Wing would be. Or dream mechanics.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I have one to start, and I'm sure more can come up as we get rolling here, but I would love to see more ways to add reinforcements. And by that I mean ships that enter the battle late. And I've had this going for a while, and then they brought in the Borg support vehicle, and I'm like, dang it! But I want it not tied to a Borg cube. I want it like truly the reinforcements are coming. So we saw it in the Dominion War when Klingons came in to the battle late and they swung the tide.
Right.
Some missions do it that way. But I'd love to be able to bring in a ship, and it's got to be specific points, like 20 points or 30 points, probably more 30 points. And you enter it in on like turn 3 or something.
Right.
And maybe it's within range 2 of your starting area. That's the deployment zone. But something that brings in that extra piece that gives you some flexibility. I think that could be an interesting dynamic to the game.
Right. Yeah, it could maybe function a little bit in the point concept of like the reinforcement sideboard, where you're paying what, 10 points for 20 kind of thing.
Yeah, or even like 15 for 20. It doesn't have to be
or
a
15
huge
for 30 or whatever the reinforcement works out to be. You sort of either you get a discount there. Maybe it's even a risky road where, you know, if your opponent destroys all your ships even after reinforcements, they get even more points.
Yeah.
So it's like the riskier the road, the greater the profit, right?
And maybe even if you lose your ships before the reinforcements show up, you've lost.
Yeah.
The reinforcements turn back. So you're taking a gamble by not putting everything out there to start. It might incentivize fast movement, but then it incentivizes you to slow it back down. And I don't know, it would change a lot of dynamics. And I feel like I discussed this with State of the Federation a while back, and we said it would be the go-to resource at that point if it was a resource. I don't know that it would at this point.
Yeah, there's certain things that I feel shouldn't really be a resource. They should just be kind of like an inclusion, like an option, like an objective or something that you tack on.
Sure.
Yeah. So some things, yeah, you gotta pay your points for, and other things are generally balanced enough that it's just adding into the mix.
With you there.
Yeah, and as far as the reinforcements concept, my group has definitely dabbled in it from time to time on the casual side of things, as far as like 2 people are playing, and then a little while in, another player joins in. That sort of thing, but when we're talking like 2-player OPs and things like that, you know, an official form, one-on-one, that's certainly fascinating.
Sure. So, you know, I don't really know how well that works. That's going to take a ton of work to balance, but I feel like there's something there.
Or maybe even just like a scenario or something where everybody builds a 130 and then they build another 2 ships or something that come in after a certain point, but there's some other factor going on to keep the speed of the game going, so you're not at the 1 hour point and you've hardly done anything because you just got too much going on. Like the meteor shower, for example, is a way to, throw extra damage around. Perhaps like some Voyager stuff, like a caretaker scenario where ships are being pulled away or being pulled in, so you only start with one at a time. And then they come out, and then like every second round, one more ship comes out or something.
That would be very interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's something. That's some at least initial thoughts on reinforcements.
Yeah, our job's generally to sort of plant the seed and see where it goes, and then hopefully you guys come back to us with some new ideas, some expansion on it. See it grow.
And even if it never goes anywhere, well, hey, we explored it to see if it could go anywhere.
Yeah, we tossed the pebble in the pond. Whether it ripples or not, we shall see.
Yeah, sometimes it just sinks. Other times it skips. Hey, look, it made it. And then it fell flat.
Yeah, for any of you longtime listeners, you might have heard me mention my inertia, acceleration, deceleration idea. And it's kind of the concept of where the large ships can warp faster and everything. They've got more distance, so to speak, but the combat's generally in like a sublight environment. So you're going around on thrusters and impulse engines. So that doesn't really factor in. So realistically, you've got larger mass that you have to push around, and once you get going, it takes a lot of energy to slow down. So the smaller ships should be able to move far and fast and accelerate quite quickly, sharp turns and everything. But the larger ships would be slower distance, slower speeds, things like that. And for any of you that have watched or played Armada, it has some similar concepts where, you actually have to pay attention to the speeds you're traveling because you're going to have to slow down, or it's going to take time to speed up, things like that. So that's something that doesn't necessarily have to be a game-changing thing like I've dabbled around with before, but maybe just a little something like either a resource or a side mechanic that just allows you a little bit more speed modification depending on your hull size, for example. Like, say, hull 1 to 2, you can squeeze a little bit extra speed out of it. You can add 1 or 2 to your speed. Red becomes white, white becomes green, and so on. And if you're a larger ship, you can take an aux to slow down a little bit more to go a slower speed or something like that.
Yeah. I could see that working pretty well, actually.
Mm-hmm. Maybe pulling some sharper turns.
Yeah.
The one thing, the flip. We've got our come abouts, which essentially is almost like the Immelman, or you're thrusting forward and you're flipping around. But in this one, it would be like you're flying straight ahead, you 180, but you're still going backwards because you still have your inertia. So if you could have like a 1-turn delay where you can do your flip, but you're still backing up. You're going in the direction you originally were traveling for 1 turn or something. It'd be kind of interesting, because then you could like flip early and then sort of back across them. Just make for some interesting maneuvers.
Well, we saw the D pull off a lot of crazy maneuvers in different episodes, so it's not unrealistic compared to what they did in the show.
Realism is not always the thing, but yeah, it's not unrealistic to transfer it from canon, right?
Yeah. It holds true to what was seen.
Right. Forgive my lack of eloquence on that one, folks.
Yeah. You know what? It's Monday night. Whatever.
Monday night spitball.
So, I've got another kind of idea here. Ships leaving behind debris field when they're destroyed.
Yes.
Because these ships, and maybe it's only like the bigger ships, have a ton of mass, a ton of well, debris that
Yeah.
doesn't just dissipate. And I understand. This is a 3-dimensional space that's being represented in a 2-dimensional game. And you can fly over, fly under, fly around. But it would still be fine. We have the obstacles, so why not just put an objective token down when a ship goes boom, and then that's an obstacle?
Or if you're lucky enough to get the debris tokens from Collective, and weren't there some in the Dominion War as well?
There were. They were really different. They weren't really ship representatives, but yeah, they were like debris. They were space debris. So
Yeah, because like Collective had some where ship blows up, you put the debris down, and then it counts as an obstacle. And that would be kind of neat.
yeah, those were like the leftover ships that had already been there from the Wolf 359 battle.
True, and then you could like shoot to get them out of the way.
Or if the Borg shot them, it took the ship off the board or the debris off the board before it actually hit your ship. So, you know, you could implement those same rules. If you can shoot the debris field, then it also gets rid of that.
Yeah. It was
You're
kind of like
breaking it
Space
up.
Invaders. You know, like you got the bunker in front of you that absorbs a hit.
Yeah, so I think that could... Yeah, it adds maybe clutter to the board, but it also makes piloting more important, and maybe it breaks up some of those real tight-knit formations, which, you know, those aren't necessarily bad, but I think there's something to be said about ships functioning kind of on their own, too. So
Indeed. Like, I definitely appreciate maps that have more obstacles, planets, asteroids, whatever, so you're not just straight jousting through open space. Granted, space is vast and mostly empty, but, you know, we like to, like, shake things up a little bit, and we do tend to congregate around moons and planets and asteroid belts and things like that, so it's more likely where an encounter is going to be. Sort of like, hey, let's meet under that sign at high noon kind of thing, right?
oh yeah, nobody wants to fight out in the middle of space. People fight around a starbase, a planet, a moon, the neutral zone, which is still going to have some form of a marker, and debris, asteroids, comets. There are points of interest that make people congregate, and then when people are congregating, tensions flare, and you go, oh, hey, let's have a fight. Okay, sure.
Dun, 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 dun. Come here! Yeah, I'm all for that concept, and I think that's something that I will definitely have to work on implementing in the campaign that I'm building.
Yeah, I kind of got to decide how much I want to do, because it depends on how many ships you have flying at a time. And, like, if you have 7 ships on a side, it can get really, really overwhelming really fast. But,
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it's a trade-off. One ship dies, debris replaces it, and now that debris doesn't actually move anymore. And then it can either be, you know, eliminated by an attack or whatever method you come up with, and then it's gone. You know, so it is kind of like a step down from where you're at. It's not a step up as far as clutter.
sure.
It's just adding some dynamic.
You just got to figure out how to fly through it, which can be really annoying sometimes if it was your point ship, and then you're like, oh, now like 4 ships have to actually move through that debris field.
I'm sure it's a lot less stressful than trying to maneuver or fly through or around minefields.
Oh, true.
So,
Very,
not getting
very
much
true.
sympathy from me.
Oh, yeah, I'm just thinking about the way that, at least my last campaign game went when I had 6? Yeah, 5 or 6 Ferengi ships, and the front one died, and that would have left debris, and then everything flew through where that one was.
Nah.
But, yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's a fair bit that could be done with debris, especially in a campaign thing.
Right.
You know, these aren't things that have to be added to the OP rules, though it would be fun to see them added for specific OPs.
Yes.
Although
Map
the
elements.
Void did this.
Mm.
Oh, wait, no, it didn't. I'm sorry. That was my house rule for the Void. I'm like, wait, I did this in a tournament. Oh, that's right. That's because I house ruled it. It was better. Ship died, we dropped an objective token, and all your leftover resources were just placed on that objective token.
Yep. Well, next up, this is something that I'm sure a lot of Star Trek fans of tech would be hankering for, or at least interested in. Extending shields.
Yes.
You've got a ship with, say, 5 hull. Large ship. You should be able to extend your shields to a ship that's, say, hull 3 or less. So you could basically completely encapsulate a ship within range 1 with your shields over theirs. So you're sacrificing your shields to take the first hits for them if they're targeted, and then their shields would kick in if they have any. And then if you're at a ship of, if you're 1 hull higher or the same hull as another ship that you're beside, you can sort of share shields. You can boost them up. So say you can offer them half your shields, right? You sort of meld them together.
Interesting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually used that in my campaign, and I had a ship be able to extend their shields around a shuttlecraft.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked quite well.
It really adds to the whole piloting thing as well. Gives you the challenge of like, okay, I still need to maneuver for attacking and staying out of firing arcs, and I want to stay within the extension range so I can hang on to it. And
right.
Maybe even an extra thing, like if you equip a tractor beam upgrade, you may lock the ship that is at least 2 hull less than yours into your alignment, so that when you move in sync, right? So you bring it up right beside yours. So if it's on your right, you just sort of pull it into your right side, and you're basically just 2 bases side by side. If it's on the left, it's on the left. If it's in the rear, it's in the rear. And let's say you can't have it in front, right? You're either pulling it, sideways or from behind. You're not pushing it in front of you. So that'd be kind of interesting.
That would be really interesting, not only to move friendly ships, but also enemy ships that way.
Yeah. That would be a really cool idea for a resource, a tractor beam resource that would allow you to push or pull a ship within certain range, and it'll have like half the effect, or you'd have to roll to see if it works if the other ship has shields. And if it has no shields, it's a guarantee work. And let's say if you have a tractor beam upgrade on your ship, you get a re-roll or you get some other bonus. It'd be an interesting way to sort of play around with it.
Okay. I can see this. We've seen the tractor beam upgrade cards before. I really like the Kazon one that can reduce the speed of an opponent's ship. Or any ship, actually. And that has some really interesting application, being able to do like a 1 come about.
I call it the projected molasses field.
Yeah, because it just slows everybody down. It's like, but actually being able to grab on and move them, and then they try to carry out their move or something, that would be really different.
Yeah. You notice how the Federation doesn't even have a tractor beam card?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, that's something I'd like to see. And another thing that we've talked a little about, I don't know if it counts as a mechanic per se, but a neutral faction upgrade concept, where it doesn't matter if it's Federation, Romulan, Borg, Bajoran, Klingon, Dominion, etc., etc. it'll work on any ship as is. Maybe you'll have a tech that says may not be played on Kazon or something to that effect if you really want, but more allowance than restriction. Something like a tractor beam. It's like, oh, you're flying a spaceship. There's a pretty good chance you're going to have a tractor beam. Right? So neutral technology, generic crew, it'll be almost what Independent could have been.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of been calling this like universal faction or something. I guess in the true aspect of CCG, it could be the neutral faction, the dark gray faction.
The gray ball.
Yeah. I think they reserved that for Spot and George and Gracie. But
right. Yeah, because even the Targ was Klingon, so... Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe even just simply call it factionless.
Yeah, factionless. However you want to do it. It like carries the same rule as Q, basically. Mm-hmm. No faction penalties for anything, and it accommodates faction pure players. It's, hey, look, guys, it's every faction. It's not just whatever faction you want it to be, it's every faction. That's the point.
And another cool thing that might be a possibility is neutral or factionless ships. Like, there's so many ship classes that were either generic and reused from an effects part of view on the show, or were just simply, something that was freely available. So this is a ship that was mass produced by XYZ Race's shipyards and sold it to everybody. So you've got them here, you've got them there, you've got them there. So it's like, okay, any factionless ship that you put into play through your fleet build automatically gains the faction of your captain.
And maybe you do something like the faction you spent the most points on or something.
Right.
However you want to do that. Like, there's a bunch of ways you could delineate that.
Right.
But I like it. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's some directions that we have to say, hey, look, there's still things that could be done with Attack Wing for maybe some new resources, some new overall mechanics. I mean, time tokens still aren't that old that there's a lack of new ideas, new innovations that can be put into Attack Wing. Mm-hmm. So we'd still love to hear what you have to say about things that you'd like to have added. And with that, we're going to turn it over to our contributors and hear what they would like to add to Attack Wing.
Hi, it's the guys from ILP talking about what mechanic we want included in the game. Dan, what would you like?
Well, being predominantly a Borg player...
Yes, Drone Boy.
I am. I would like to see a Borg card that can assimilate captains or even admirals.
I think that would be something the Borg should have.
Because they can assimilate crew, and as we know, they assimilated Picard.
Well, maybe
in Next Gen.
The card could be the drone that came over and took Picard.
That's a good idea.
Call it whatever you want.
So it could be like a discard drone.
Yeah.
That comes over, steals Picard.
Yeah.
Or any captain that you choose.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be Picard.
No. I mean, it could be a good way of taking out Madred, because Madred's taking everyone else out, and if you don't have Madred, just...
Madred?
He takes the other captains out. So,
yes.
There are 4 lights! Remember that episode?
I can't at this very second in time, but...
Okay, I'm not going to take your nerd card away.
No.
Well, I want to see, staying with the Borg theme, I want to see a nanovirus, because as someone who plays against the Borg a lot, my friendly neighbourhood Borg here...
Me?
Yeah. I would like a card that I can hide under one of my crew members, say. So when that person gets assimilated, I go, ha-ha! You also have the nanovirus. You saw it in the Voyager episode with Echeb, I think. I think Admiral Janeway brought one in as well. So, yeah. And then basically it does things to your ship, like reduces attack die, something like that.
The question is, where would it stop though?
Well, it would probably. I imagine it would work something the way the triples do. You know, at the end of every end phase, you add another triple token on your ship.
Yeah,
it's like a reverse of that.
I suppose so, but I mean, you don't want to cripple a ship too badly with one action.
No, you don't.
It's not like when you assimilate something, you just take it, and yes, it might cripple the ship, but it's not a continuing action. That's a one-shot action.
Unless we make it puts 3 time tokens on certain things.
That's not a bad idea. Time tokens could work well.
Because then that's a time-limited effect then, isn't it?
That could work quite well.
Yeah.
Although I don't want it to happen on my ship, but it could work quite well.
Hi everyone, it's Not Picard here, and a mechanic I would like to add to the game is some way of reflecting the way that ships can divert power to shields or divert power to weapons or something like that. And I know there are a few cards that do this, like Scotty from the original Enterprise, who allows you to disable 2 shields to get an extra 2 attack dice or roll 2 fewer attack dice to heal shields. And I kind of like that ability, and I like that card. I think it's really useful. But I'd like some way, perhaps a more costly way for every ship to be able to do that. Perhaps you place an auxiliary power token next to your ship and you can increase either your attack or shield stat by 1 and decrease the other by 1. That would be quite nice. I think it opens up some tactical options for people, and it doesn't necessarily make the Tiny Prize Scotty a completely useless card. By having the costing you an action and having the APT, I think it makes it a costly action that people will maybe not want to do. And I thought even if you wanted to make it really costly, the fact that the whole crew and the whole engineering crew and everyone are working at shifting this power around, perhaps you could say that you can't take a free action on the turn you use this ability. But just having that as a generic ability for everyone would maybe mean that there was more tactical options for everyone in the game. So that's the mechanic I'd like to add. And I am Not Picard.
Hello, this is Stephen Stott with Ready to Play Gaming down in Columbia, South Carolina, here to talk about what enhancement card I would like to see added to STAW. For me, I think that the card that needs to be added is something that I would call this card Enhanced Structural Hull Integrity. What it does is adds 1 hull to your hull strength on the ship. It would be a generic card that could go with any ship, or perhaps make it for ships that have a hull integrity of 4 or less to add to that hull integrity. Probably make it either a 3 or 4 point card, and it would of course go on your tech upgrade slot, and it would add one hull. A lot of the ships out there, particularly like the Defiant or ships that have like 3 hull, those are, as a buddy of mine, Jonathan, would say, are crunchy ships when it comes to getting hit with attack dice. A lot of things out there that add shield integrity, but there's really not much out there that adds hull integrity across the board in ships. Obviously, the Vulcans have a card, but it only relates to one class of ship. So I'd like to see something out there a little more generic that adds that hull value, because that's really important towards the life span of the ship during the attack or during the game. That's what I'm going with. So this is Steve Stott from Ready to Play Gaming in Columbia, South Carolina, hoping all your dice rolls are hits and evade.
Welcome to Out of Arc. This is Jacqueline.
Liz.
Will.
Anders.
Brandon.
Today we just finished our playthrough of the classic movie OP's Search for Spock. Definitely some interesting stuff, not quite as enjoyable as the Wrath of Khan, I think, but there were some interesting mechanics going on today. Why don't you share what you brought with us, Anders?
So, my fleet consisted of a bioship, the prototype 01, and then the region's flagship, so 3 factions. One mistake I did make is that I misread the rules, which is always a bad thing, and I thought that the 6th crew was inside your points for your fleet as opposed to just extra, and you have incentives to max it out. So I ended up being about 17 points under, plus I only used 17 points for the crew that are on the planet, so I had some weaker guys. I brunt, 1 point. And yeah, so it's always important to make sure you read the rules, and especially with there's these extra stuff, is it inside or outside your allocation? So
Yeah, I think strategically reading the rules and being clear on the rules and maybe contacting your TO beforehand in case you have any questions is a very, very strong stance to take. I know we had the same issue with Brandon. You had the same problem where you included your 6 crew members inside your points.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you bring today?
I basically, before I learned about that, I basically brought the Valdor, the Terex, and I brought the new ship, the Aljon. And then after learning about the mess up, I was able to fit one more ship, and I brought the Reliant.
Very nice. And Will, what did you have today?
I ran all 3 of the named Federation Constitution class ships, which was very cool to have on the table. I mistakenly thought I had 3 copies of upgraded phasers, but I only had 2, so I ended up running dual phaser banks on one of them, but I had Type 8 and on all 3, and so they were fairly punchy little things, and they did okay. Last 2 rounds didn't go so well, but I put up a fight, mostly.
Yeah, for sure.
And from a thematic standpoint, I have to say seeing all 3 Constitution class ships on the table was a personal favorite of mine today.
It's really cool to see all 3, a group of any named, all named classes of a ship. It's really cool to see when they're all matching. And the Constitution class ships I've always liked. I even like the little models, so they're pretty cool.
All right, and Liz, what did you bring to the table today?
I feel a little bit bad because I brought all bioships. I brought the Alpha, the Beta, and a generic Omega sort of class bioship. And I loaded them up with Picard and
Spock.
Yeah, Picard and Spock and a generic captain, and then put a whole bunch of crew on them because they don't have any crew slots, so I loaded them up with all my rescued crew off the planets. They were pretty mean. It was very satisfying, but then I felt a little bit bad.
And you did win the tournament, so
yeah.
Was a little bit brutal. So which card specifically that you brought today would you say is the one that stood out as the must include? What was your go-to card?
Riker, actually. I got a lot of play out of Riker after I rescued him off the planet. That was really big for me. Actually saved my ship a couple of times because it just was only rolling 2 evade dice against fairly heavy hits. It was nice to have that extra die on the convert.
So this was Hood Riker?
Hood Riker.
But, and I also had Hood Riker. One of the bigger things is if you put him on a bioship with the bioship Omega pilot, where he gets disabled, then Hood Riker gives you +2 evade and an extra convert, which just ended up being a little ridiculous, where, my bioship ended up rolling 9 dice at range 3 obstructed, which was like, why bother attacking?
And I ridiculously got obsessed with killing his bioship, much to my detriment. I don't know why I got so fixated on that ship, partly because I did some damage to it early on, but by the end it was just I could not kill that ship. And of course the Riker getting 2 evades from it was great.
So would you say that the Riker on the bioship was also one of your favorite cards here today, Anders?
Absolutely. I think if you can get Hood Riker on any ship where the captain gets disabled, that just is ridiculous.
Great. How about you, Will? What was your standout card today?
I couldn't run that Riker because I actually ran Pegasus Riker for the captain skill. I actually had all 3 of my ships at skill 11. Call it the Spinal Tap fleet. Turn them up to 11. The best card I had probably was Cheat Death. Saved me every time because I had Core with Cheat Death. Captain Core was skill 8. He was really good. I got rerolls even when I was flying really badly. I had some nice cards, but the one that I think was the most disappointing was probably SETI Eel. I brought that, and I was thinking, oh, this is such an awesome card. Every ship I flew against had a 90-degree arc, and they were all flying in formation, and when a 90-degree arc ships are not pointing at each other, you don't really want to have them attack each other, because it's like, well, you can attack this ship of mine, or you can attack this ship of mine. It didn't really do... Only once did I actually get to use it in any remotely positive way, so it was a disappointing card, actually.
How about you, Brandon? What was your standout and your disappointing card today?
I'd probably say the Hoodriker really is the card to have in this build. Disappointing card, didn't really have one, to tell you the truth. Because it all worked out to a degree, you just had to know how to play it right.
Oh, I wanted to throw out, too, I had one that I hadn't used much before, 7 of 9, as one of my crew. And I put her on the bioship Alpha with Captain Spock. And so I was getting a free target lock from Spock. And then re-enable 7 of 9 as my ship action. Get the battle station, disable her. Every turn I was getting a target lock battle station. And 6 or 7 dice.
I think really the common theme we're seeing here is that Hoodriker is just really phenomenally good. And when you can cram him onto ships that don't otherwise have a crew slot or are out of faction and make it a little more costly or challenging, it's just really elevating these builds to a slightly more ridiculous juggernaut level. Did you have any cards that were really disappointing to you today, Liz?
Actually, I brought Montgomery Scott, and I actually was running the one, what does he come with?
The Refit Enterprise version.
That you can disable 2 shields to add, is it 1 attack? Or you can discard him to do a repair, and I never used him. I rescued him most of the time. He got killed once, but I never used him.
Yeah, the first part of the refit one is you can disable him to prevent an Aux power token being placed.
Right.
And then the original series one, you can disable shields to add attack dice, but you apparently weren't able to do that much. So.
Yeah, the shields, it was on my blind, basically, and the shields got knocked out very quickly, flying around the planet rescuing people. And so I never had any shields to disable to be able to use it, which is kind of a shame.
So I think one of the features of this scenario that came up maybe a couple times was the actual fact that you could have your away teams fight. Was there anyone that took particular advantage of that and tried to, make sure that Hoodriker didn't make onto their opponent's build?
I really tried to. That's part of the reason I had 3 skill 11 captains. I thought, well, I'll just hit them right at the beginning, and I had all these attacks, right off the bat. It was really hard to kill crew reliably. I kept rolling double battle stations every time when I was rolling those 2 dice for my away team, and so I almost never killed any away team, and it was a total waste of captain skill.
In my case, my strategy was to get to the planet as fast as possible and suck people off. Ideally within the first 2 rounds, and then you only face 1 end phase and 1 attack if you do that correctly. And so it's like I just avoided the whole battle on the planet by taking people on board my ship, and then it's moot.
Yeah, except for the first game where I lined up a little bit crookedly. Every time I was able to get all 3 of my ships within range 1 of the planet on the first move and pick up at least 3 of my crew right away before anyone had any chance to kill them off. And then typically I could pick up the other 3 or 2 out of the 3 on the second turn. So I think consistently most of us got 5 or 6 rescues on our crew. Did anyone get less than that?
I often only got 4, and I think only 3 on my last game, because I was being aggressive and attacking out in space and didn't always go so well. So, especially when I'm attacking Anders' bioship, that hurt.
The unkillable bioship.
I mean, a native 5 defense, occasionally boosting up, with the biologic technology, that's another good one.
Yeah, I had another 2 there.
For attack or defense,
So you're better off if that's the case, just leave the bioship alone, go after his other stuff.
That's absolutely what I should have done, and I did not.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can satisfactorily say that we've found Spock here in Colorado, and signing off, this is Out of Arc.
Always stay out of arc.
Sorry.
And remember, always stay out of arc.
Hi, I'm Dave Griffin, and today we're looking at the mission Investigate the Unknown. We just got this one. It came with the IKS Amar, and it recreates the initial battle between the Klingon Katingas and V'ger in Star Trek The Motion Picture. On the Klingon side, we have 100 points, 3 Klingon ships, at least 1 Katinga. The odds are that they're all 3 going to be Katinga, probably. 1 photon torpedo on each, and no upgrade which allows them to teleport to a different part of the board. The objective, essentially a part of V'ger, is on the south edge and centered, and the Klingons enter on the north edge. V'ger cannot be damaged or destroyed, but the token can be locked onto. The Klingons are going to have to fire photon torpedoes at V'ger. I'll explain why in a minute. But once fired upon V'ger, that turn or after, I think it means that turn in which they fire, will fire at the 2 closest Klingon ships to the objective token. Now, the number of dice it rolls is phenomenally high, which is the problem with winning this scenario for the Klingons. Range 1 to 2, it's 12 dice, 3 to 4, 11 dice, 5 to 6, 10 dice, 7 to 8, 9 dice, 9 and beyond, 8 attack dice. Now, they put multiple range rulers together to get those ranges for the Klingons. That pretty much means that they can hit the Klingons anywhere on the board, by the way. The Klingons have to lock on the objective token and fire their photon torpedo. And when they do that, they get an objective token on their card. And then they can leave by getting out of the board on the north edge where they came in. Now, if they get off the board with 1 ship with a mission token, they get a marginal victory. 2 ships, they get a partial victory. 3 ships, they get a complete victory. Now, if you want to see a very good bat rep of this, look for Steve Smith's bat rep on YouTube, and it shows very well what happens when you play the scenario. Thematically, in the Star Trek The Motion Picture, it was 3 Katingas, and that's really as good a build as you can come up with. I would follow Steve's example and put Inchas on the ships, because an Incha gives any ship that doesn't get destroyed in the initial exchange a good chance of getting off the board. Since V'ger has no quality, it's going to be rolling hits on half of their dice on average, but that still means at range 1 to 2 or 3 to 4, that's 5.5 to 6 dice, and that's pretty rough on a Klingon ship, even when they're cloaked, unless they roll very, very well. You're going to have to decide for yourself whether to be cloaked or not cloaked when those initial volleys come in. You might have a slightly better chance if you're not cloaked, to be honest, but you can try it both ways and see what happens. The odds are, in that initial engagement, even if you have turned around, locked on a previous turn, turned around, are headed north off the board when you fire your torpedoes aft, even if you do all of that, the odds are that you're going to be hit with something like 5 or 6 hits, and that is probably going to destroy 2 of your 3 ships. Now, you might get lucky, it might roll badly, it might only be 1 ship. So if you want to have a chance of getting 2 ships off the board and you don't have enough Inchas, I recommend that for one of the ships, you captain it with Old Core, who will draw fire for at least one of those shots. And if you're missing an Incha for one of the ships, leave it off of his ship, because he's almost certainly going to die. So any ship that doesn't get destroyed in that initial exchange, go maximum speed off the board, and then use an Incha to go maximum speed again. And you'll probably be far enough at that point so that if you cloak, you'll probably survive the engagement with at least 1 ship. So what it means is you're probably going to get a marginal victory. If you find a way to get a better victory than that, I think it'll either be luck because V'ger rolled badly in his attack dice,
or perhaps you find some way, possibly even cross-faction, to cancel an attack against one of the ships. So good luck with this. I'm going to rate it 3 stars. It's a pretty simple mission, and it has fairly predictable results, but it is a solitary mission, and we have very few of those. So I'd say go ahead and get your board out on your kitchen table and try this mission and see how it goes. Have fun, and I'll see you next week.
Hi, this is Industrial Light and Plastic. I'm Byron.
And I'm Dan.
And we're just chilling in fluidic space, really, as you do. Well,
Yeah.
not quite. Semi-rural southwest England, but you know, it's kind of like Bajor. There's lots of planting and drinking of cider going on. And, and because of where we are, there's not too many stores doing OP events. So we've been playing for 2 years, but it took us a bit of time to find a friendly, semi-local gaming store.
Yes, yeah.
And Proud Lion in Cheltenham, great place. If you're ever in the area, go and see them.
Really friendly guys down there.
Yeah. So our first OP. So Dan, what was your thoughts going into this first OP?
Going into it, I thought I was going to lose very, very badly.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, because I thought you were going to lose very, very badly as well.
Why?
No, I'm pulling your leg. No, I just, I think I was just expecting to have fun and come away with a cool blind booster ship, like David said on his videos. I mean, the blind boosters are great, so just expecting a good time. But we had a very good time.
We did.
Yeah.
No, that was a really good event, and it was very challenging, the scenario. I thought so.
Yeah, well, we practiced for a month, didn't we, before?
We did.
Yeah.
Much to my wife's dismay.
Yes. And to be honest with you, I was getting a bit bored as well, doing the same scenario every week for a month.
To be honest, though, we'd done it wrong a few matches, so we needed to make sure we got it right.
We did.
And with all the Borg rules that kicked in, I was blindly unaware of.
Because we haven't been playing OPs.
There were some last minute changes to make.
Yeah. But no, it was good. So, I mean, what did you think of your first couple of matches?
My first 2 matches were really good. The guys I played against were really laid back. They were really friendly.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the matches. They're good. We can't really say much else about them. I won both of them.
It wasn't a scary. I was thinking it wasn't a scary experience, was it? I mean, if there's folks out there that are going, "Ooh, should I do it?" Absolutely, get yourself down the store, do it.
Yeah, very much so. It was very good fun.
Well, I was well happy with my first ever competitive game. I got max points, and the guy had a tactical cube. I don't remember what else he had. I just remember there was this tactical cube. And
he drew the Bajoran ship.
No, was that your first guy? My guy had the Lakota.
Oh, he had that. Of course he did. Yes.
So yeah, my area shot from my he flew it into both of my cloak minefields, and then my area shot from my Equinox with quantum torpedoes finished him off. But he took it really well. Really amazingly friendly guy. And we didn't talk about what boosters we pulled.
No,
I had this plan. So Dan, what did you pull?
I pulled the Mirror Universe Klingon ship that is fairly unpronounceable.
Lucky guy. The IKS.
That's the one.
Yes,
I'm a bit rusty on my Klingon.
Well, yes, I visit the Empire fairly often.
Yeah, it's a good ship.
It's the town over the hill.
But you got the good one.
Well, I have issues.
Jammy so and so.
I'm one of those weirdos that can never have enough Doderadexes. And I really wanted the Belak, also because it was in that new translucent green. And I painted my Vrax half cloaked, and I love it. I wanted another Belak, and anyway, I'm looking at these buying booster bricks, and I go in with my gut, and I pulled out this thing that my gut told me to pull. Opened it up, Bioship. I was like, I'll take that. So I was like, all my friends now hate me, but I mean, you were talking about it. The boys that we play with were talking about it. None of them got it. I got the Bioship. and it was amazing.
And you don't even like Species 847-2.
I do now. I mean, it's just the upgrades. There's some great 1-point upgrades.
I know. I haven't got any of those.
The thing that lets you do a red manoeuvre as a white manoeuvre. Because that was my favourite trick to combat species before, was just to play on the fact that they can't really come about.
No.
And now they can.
Now they can.
So, yeah. For me, my first match was amazing. My second match, I really enjoyed it, but I stuffed it up for myself. I flew my Riemann Warbird off the board. Newbie mistake.
Not supposed to do that.
No, I was showing off the size of my manoeuvre dial. I was just gonna, I'd do a 6 manoeuvre to get out of dodge. I was low on a hole, he was low on a hole, he was going to blow up before me, run the timer down. Instead of just doing 1-6 and then anything else, I did 2-6 manoeuvres. And then I couldn't get out of the corner, and they put Byron in the corner, and that was it.
Yeah.
My third match, again, it was very good actually. It was against a fellow Romulan player, and that's the only type of players I fear. I ain't scared of Borg, I ain't scared of anybody. But I was pleased with my performance, but then again I made another newbie mistake. I didn't check the timer, and perhaps did some things that I wouldn't have done had I realised there was only 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, it's a bit of a close game, that one, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, the guys that I played were all great. Dan, what about your last match? That was an important match for you, wasn't it?
He scared me. He scared me a lot.
We have new respect for Kazon.
We do. The UK's number 6.
Yes, although after today, because we're recording this on the day of Nationals, we're not there because we're poor, and we live in rural Bajor.
And I got... Yeah, he played Kazon Fleet, and he drew the Vulcan blind booster.
Yeah.
Which was actually remarkably fairly okay, in all fairness. But
it was decent.
His flying style was... He knew how to manoeuvre those ships.
Virtuoso.
And he knew what he was doing.
He was very...
He'd obviously done it before.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, he introduced me to the fighter rules as they should be.
Ah, yes.
Because we've been playing the fighter rules completely wrong.
I thought we weren't going to speak of this.
So basically, I went into the match thinking, oh, you can only destroy 1 shield token on the fighters, and then next attack you can destroy the actual token. No, that was wrong.
The shield token is basically like an evade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, so that kind of threw me off balance somewhat, but I did still manage to destroy half his fleet. And the only reason I managed to do that was because I went for him rather than the objective.
Yeah.
And my fighters took out the objective just after he'd done all the work, so that made me happy. And he was kind of annoyed, and you could tell it.
It's a very good build, though. I don't blame him. I mean...
Superb build. And I do like Kazon as a squadron now, but I still wouldn't use them.
Yeah. No, but great guy. He played it very well. And... when I played him on my game too, and I got him down to I think 1 ship, but like I said, I flew off the board. But yes, so Fleet Captain, no, Fleet Admiral.
That's me.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
I wasn't expecting to win.
No.
Now the prize ship we got was superb.
Oh yeah. Oh, I wasn't expecting Fellowship, but I got a Fellowship.
Yeah, you did. That was
lovely,
really good.
Lovely surprise.
That was really good. But no, the Zindi.
Zindus.
This is Indus, isn't it? Yeah.
Reptilian.
Yeah, superb. I really like Darmon. Is it Darmon?
Yeah, I used him in a casual game with
just to annoy people.
Yeah. Our friend Benson was particularly pleased when I hit his Voyager Naught with some Darmon action. I took away his Sulu.
Oh, you don't want to take away Sulu.
That was after using Captain Kolo on the Romulan science vessel, just to make sure that none of the high dice attacks the 2 guys landed on my Enterprise E stuck.
I'll be honest, when we used them last week in our little scenario challenge, I didn't expect it to stand up to much considering its stats, but it's actually a really good ship.
Yeah. Oh, when we did, you and I played the Balance of Terror scenario.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you took the Zindus.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, very good.
Really good indeed.
It bested the Gargathong, and maybe that's not hard to do.
But no, superb prize ship, that one.
Worth winning.
Very worth winning, yes, very worth winning.
Yeah, and just worth taking part as well. I mean, if I just come away with my bioship, I would have been very happy.
True, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I just didn't want the stupid little Bajoran thing. Do you know what I mean?
No.
That seemed particularly pathetic. I'm sure it's not, but
good for an Alpha Strike. Anyway, we've gone way over our time, so we are going to go. Bye.
Alright guys, with me I have Bryan, the winner of UK Nationals. Congratulations on the win, Bryan. I know it was a long, hard-fought day, but you emerged victorious.
Yes.
First, I know your build's kind of been out there, but tell us what you brought.
I brought the Scimitar with the Gold Ducat, with Romulan Helmsman, Cloak Mines, and an interface generator.
Okay.
Then we had the name Vorcha the Magda, with Martok, that was the level 8 one, with Lure, the 2-point Wharf to give the captain skill boost, and Quark with projected stasis field underneath. And the little support ship was a basic science vessel with Captain Madrid, had Admiral Mendak, Lean Alice, and the Cloaked Mines.
Okay, I like that. So you get 2 uses of Gol Madred, and a couple of Cloaked Mines. It's a nice solid build.
Yeah, I just thought on sort of like with the Madrid, sort of like having, it's only a 26-point ship. So although it's a support ship, it's one that people really want to take out first.
Right.
Otherwise they're going to lose captains.
Yeah, lose captains, and you know, you've got the battle station support for the Vorcha there, so.
Yes.
Or double battle stations on the Scimitar.
Yep. Yeah, both were done a few times during it. Also, as well, with the Madrid being the captain, he was automatically targeting captains of level 8 or lower.
Right.
Rather than your standard 7 gets you sort of like the dice to defend against it. Because the captain's slightly different from the admiral.
Yeah, and that he cares about what skill number you specifically have, so using Mendak for that +2 boost is actually a really nice decision there.
Yeah.
I like it. No, that's a real solid build. It's I know last year at UK Nationals, the winner had like double Vorcha, double fighters, and I was musing, I'm like, oh, there's no way it's going to be another Vorcha in the winning list. And then I see your list, I'm like, there's a Vorcha! Why did you have to go and prove me wrong?
Yeah, I've always liked the Vorchas, just for the maneuverability.
Yeah, they are super.
Punch that they've got with them.
They are super maneuverable. They're a great ship that way, and five attack dice. How can you really go wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, I've always liked the Magda.
Yeah.
Don't get too many chances to use it effectively, though.
You know, but sometimes it's not about having too many chances. If it comes into play once or twice in a tournament, it might save your bacon.
Yes. Definitely. Just this very careful manoeuvre, and you can just be right in the perfect spots.
Yeah. So, how's the scenario laid out? Was it just an open battlefield, or were you guys using obstacles or objectives or anything?
Yeah, it was the obstacle scenario, which has been used in all the nationals, I believe.
Okay.
Which was you get your six tokens, sort of like from your starter box, which is 3 space stations, is an asteroid field, a derelict ship, and a debris field, and you just pick 3 of the 6 to use every time.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on that? How did you change what you did? Did it change how you played at all?
It did a little. I went for more of making sure my opponent didn't have a straight fly through the middle of it. I would try to place them so that there was an obstacle in the way at the key points where I was looking at.
Okay.
So I was relying more on sensor echoing past the objectives.
Oh, yeah.
Or forcing them to take their turns.
Right, because you've got a fleet that can cloak. Doesn't mean you have to cloak everything, but that gives you a lot of options, which is always a good thing.
Yes. Other ones I thought of is because using the science vessel, I generally used 2 of the space station tokens, so that could actually be slightly combat effective.
Okay, yeah.
Because it gave you 3 dice at range 2 from each of the actual tokens themselves, which is much better than the ship itself.
Right. Yeah, those little science vessels don't pack much of a punch, but yeah, with the 3 dice from a space station, yeah, they can do a little something.
Yeah, little nicks here and there.
So I know the format was you guys did 3 rounds of Swiss and then cut to top 4, right?
Yes.
So, and you had what, 20 people playing?
Yes, 20 people started off.
Wow.
And 18 finished the 3 rounds.
That's impressive. I know when we did regionals here in California, we had 19 people. So you guys one-upped us. And but I love hearing that there's that many people that show up to a big Star Trek tournament. Of course, I wish it was more people, and but it's nice to know that more than 2 years in, almost 3 years in, this game still has that kind of numbers for a big tournament.
Yes, there was a few returning people from the previous years as well who were looking and improving.
Right, which is always good.
Performances.
And poor Chris has hit 3rd 3 years running.
3rd for the 3rd year running, yes.
I feel for him. It's like, what do you have to do?
Yeah, consistency at its best.
Yeah. So you made it through Swiss. What rank were you when you finished Swiss?
I finished top on points.
Okay. So you were 3-0 with...
It was 3-0 with 121. Was it 300 and 320 points?
Okay. So almost total board wipes there.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
And only gave away the science vessel once in the second game.
Okay.
In the first 3 rounds.
That's wow. Not only are you scoring points, you're denying points. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So you go in there as the 1 seed, and you're going, okay, now I got to take out the 4 seed. So what was that matchup like, if you remember
that
it?
Matchup, it was Tim, and he had the Bellerophon, Alpha Hunter, and a set of Fed fighters.
Okay.
He was also using Cloaked Mines, and the Bellerophon was just in its let's have loads of evade dice and attack cancellation.
Okay, yeah. Bellerophon's good at doing that.
Yes. Basically, sort of like just as we were about to approach into sort of like shooting range, I used that sort of like Ben in most people's games as lure. And just shot it 3 forward, and I done an aggressive move myself, so I actually just went past my ships. So took that out of combat, sort of like in the first round of shooting, so I could concentrate on his other 2 ships.
Right, and without the 360, it's going to take a while for an Intrepid class to come back into the fight.
He actually had Admiral Q on board, though.
Oh, but okay.
Unfortunately for him, the way he had it lined up, he just clipped the objectives token as he done the lure move, so couldn't actually about turn to stay in the combat.
That's unfortunate for him, and very fortunate for you.
Yes, but no, it was a really good sort of like slugfest, I would say.
Okay.
As it was, well, as we were getting close to time, his Bellerophon was actually behind the scimitar, just chasing it and shooting it every single round, just trying to take those points off. But for once, for me, my defense dice were on fire.
Oh, that's where you're just hoping and going, okay, hold together.
Yeah, sort of like, because he was behind it and I had no shields left, so couldn't cloak. Which was a bit frustrating for me because I still had the interface generator unused.
Oh no. Oh, that's a rough day.
Yeah.
That's where you go.
That's what mines do to you.
Yes. Yeah, that yeah, don't even get me started on Cloaked Mines, but they make the game far more tactical. That's for sure.
Yes, definitely. So it always made you think a bit more on what to do rather than just diving straight in there.
Yeah, obstacles plus Cloaked Mines. Yeah, lots on the board to consider. Okay, so you make it through that that match, your dice hold together, and then you get to the championship match. And I know that most championship matches on the national scale are something to behold. So can you talk about that match?
It went up against John, who was from Brighton, I believe, and he was using sort of like the... Where is it here? Sort of like he was using the Talvath with 3 cloaked mines, and sort of like a Fed captain and admiral to basically give him +1 attack and defense dice to everything nearby it. And he was using the named Avatari Tomid and just the Borged Dederics as well, both with mag charges, and it was Picard and Spock on board. And he basically just set up as a turtle build.
Oh, yeah.
His science vessel just jumped up into the middle, dropped the mines, and about turned. And it was just your careful manoeuvre of going 1 forward, 2 back, 1 forward, sensor echo slightly, 2 back. And he just stayed in there. So it was a very patient game to begin with. I think it was by like turn 5, I had went up the side of the table, about turned and flew back. So I was basically about turned again where I started at the end of the 5th. So I just wasn't prepared to go through the cloaked mines.
Right, and you're kind of going, well, who's going to blink first? Who's going to make either a wrong move or decide that it's worth going and fighting?
Yeah, I think I forced him into combat maybe a turn before he was ready to do it, because he turned his ship slightly, and again I just used lure to get the one with Spock on board just to make it jump forward too. So you still had like good firing arcs and stuff on my ships, but I pulled it close enough where I was willing to go into combat with him. And I also sacrificed the science vessel to get rid of Spock as well.
Okay. Those are some of the things you have to do.
Yes.
I mean, lure is at least that card that will break up a turtle. So probably that's your MVP for the finals.
Yeah, but he was definitely very patient himself, moved very slowly, cautiously, and he used these objective tokens wisely as well, because he had the derelict ship near himself, so he was removing an ops token from his ships, like every turn, which meant his sort of like reverse manoeuvres weren't really harming him that much.
Okay. That's a really good strategy. I mean, I probably don't love the turtling nature that you can do with it, but I like the way you can implement that. I think it's clever. But just because something's clever doesn't mean that it's necessarily good for the game.
Yeah. But no, sort of he went through sort of like, and that was his tactics, and mine was just basically be patient and engage just at the right moment. And we eventually got there, I think maybe about half an hour into the game in itself before we actually started attacking each other. Just a really slow start. This is sort of like went up the table, back down again, and then about turn, and it was a couple of slow moves.
Okay.
And then lure just kicked in and brought him into combat range. And from there, even sort of with that, sort of like both Deredexes had an interface generator on them and mag charges.
Right.
So he took out my cloaking effectiveness, so I just entered combat not cloaked.
Right, because otherwise you're just going to get shredded to pieces.
Yes.
So you have to adapt.
With his cloaked mines, with his cloaked mines and the mag charges, it would have been suicide just to run in.
Right.
So like cloaked and take him on. It would just never have worked.
Well, it sounds to me, and I know you don't need my validation in any way, but it sounds to me as if you are a very tactical player, you understand this game quite well, and you are very deserving of the title of UK National Champion.
Thank you.
So, if nothing else, this goes to show that there's a ton of different builds out there that you have to be prepared to face in any kind of a big tournament. And it also goes to show that you can bring some of these weird things and make it work and give your opponent a frustrating day. And maybe you don't ultimately win with it, but you can have a lot of fun. And and make a top 4 cut. And, sometimes, hey, top 4 out of 20, that's still a great day.
Yeah, I mean, every build in all 5 games, every single build was different. But the only similarity is people were using cloaked mines, but that's more on controlling parts of the map.
Yeah.
Or influence what happens on it. But every build was different. And in the first round, there was a set of transphasic torpedoes floating about.
Oh, that's
which
fun to
I've
hear.
not seen in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen those too. That's good fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, was it second round? It was using Admiral Worf.
Okay.
To fire off as well.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of Admiral Worf here and there. People like using him with the assimilated Brel to...
Yep, that was the combination used, actually.
Yeah. Or like the Robinson. That's another good one to use Admiral Worf with.
Yeah, it was actually had the Macta with Worf on board. It was the ISS Defiant with Old Car.
Okay, that's a good one.
Borg, and the Borg Varel with mag charges on board as well.
So 2 ships that Worf could influence, so if one goes away, you don't lose the effectiveness of Admiral Worf. I like that.
It was a really clever build.
Yeah, it maybe doesn't have enough firepower, but it's certainly defensive. I like that. So, if the game wasn't completely dominated by cloaked mines, that would actually have that would have a fairly good chance. But
it actually took me off guard because I forgot about Admiral Worf and started to close in while cloaked.
Oh no!
Yes.
Oh.
So, it actually took out my science vessel, I believe it was. So without me realising that it would just hammer it.
Yeah. Well, at least you didn't lose the match. That's the good takeaway.
No, again, it was just used lure again just to move the Macta into position.
Yeah.
To take out Admiral Worf.
Yeah, it's like, you need to be over there. That's how we get rid of you.
Yeah, just a scimitar with its 6 forward.
Yeah.
Felt like it was jumping straight in there.
I've faced scimitars several times, and that 6 forward always catches me off guard, because you never know if they're going to use it or not. And then they do, and all of a sudden you're in combat like a round before you expect it to be, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yep. Also as well, with the Romulan helmsman, it's 2 big moves, because you do the 6 forward, and then the 4 about as well.
Yes.
So it's massive moves.
Yeah, it's like,
and just staying with your action economy at the same time.
Yeah, which is great. That's what's made Romulans very playable, very competitive. Some people argue that they're not right at the top, and I go, at some point, who cares if they're the very top? I think that the very top is kind of defined by who's playing it. Like, are you familiar with what you're flying? Do you feel comfortable? Do you know how to handle different situations? That's what defines the top.
Yeah.
This isn't a world where Borg are clearly the top. I don't think there's anything that's like the best ship. I think scimitars are pretty close. I think that
scimitars are definitely up there.
Well, yeah, they just do so much well. And they don't have a glaring weakness. They're just a lot of points to put on the board. So.
Yep. Big firepower and a good maneuver dial as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me get you out on this. State of attack wing. I know this is probably a big, long conversation that we could have spent the entire time talking about. But where do you think the game is right now? What might you like to see changed in the next little bit? And what are you enjoying about Attack Wing right now?
Well, where it is sort of like for us ourselves in Stirling is it settled in quite nicely, because not long after the Borg got nerfed, we actually went down to 4 players in our local area, just through people leaving and moving on to other games. But recently we've managed to get up to about 16 players.
Wow.
Which is fantastic for us, just from basically using sort of like Facebook and shouting out and getting anybody's attention that's willing to come along. As for like rules and stuff, I feel as though Worf needs to get out there a bit more.
Yeah.
Even just show that they're there rather than like an update every couple of months. We get loads of unanswered questions from everybody.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I think it's just lacking the direct support from WizKids themselves through to Worf just to help everybody out. Probably actual playtesting from people that know the game before some cards are released. I mean, obviously one of the biggest ones is a card that I use myself is Lure. The fact it basically needed an immediate errata to it.
Right.
Because, I mean, that one's instantly blinding in front of you that the card is broken.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was that situation where you could combo it and kill someone with transwarp signal. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I hear that, yeah, Worf needs to get out there. We'd like more playtesting, of course. And maybe these things are happening with the slower release schedule. I mean, they certainly answered a lot of questions about the Algeron right as it came out. So I think they're at least trying. But at some point trying isn't quite enough, but it's nice to know that they're at least paying some attention.
Yeah. It's just lack of word back from them on anything until it appears.
Right.
So in there, I think even if someone asks a question, rather than go, it's already been answered, the simplest point them to the answer.
It's hard to spend a lot of time crafting a question to Worf, and then just being told off topic.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no, it's not. It's a legitimate question. I want to know. So, yeah. So, okay, final question to you. If you could put any ship from the Star Trek universe into Star Trek Attack Wing, what would you introduce to the game?
Me personally, the Defiant's already there. It's just one ship I've always loved from watching DS9 originally.
Okay. Maybe the Sao Paulo? The second Defiant, so to speak?
Yeah, that would definitely be a strong choice.
Because then we might get like pulse phasers and some other things. Some like Defiant class specific upgrades.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you'll have the problems of they would need to just be Defiant only.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they would just add to all the extra sort of like Type 8s and upgraded phasers, which are boosting pretty much any Federation ship up.
Right.
To equal or better class than anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, you'd say like can only be equipped to a Defiant class ship. For at least for pulse phasers. So there you go. From the winner of UK Nationals, get the man a new Defiant class. All right. Hey, Bryan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hey, keep on playing games. Again, for people, where do you play locally? Like, where do you play your OPs?
Common Ground Games in Stirling, which is in central Scotland.
Okay. So there you go. If you're in central Scotland, check it out. All right. Thank you, Bryan.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hello, it's Chris from Tangerine Alert. Been a few months since I had time to sit down and record anything, and David has asked me to give a rundown of how I felt the UK Nationals went this year. So, last Friday we had the UK Nationals in Birmingham at the UK Games Expo. A great weekend. I'm glad to say this year I didn't make the mistake of doing too many tournaments. I only did the Star Trek Attack Room tournaments. I passed on all the others, and it was a much more enjoyable experience than previously. I was less tired, less knackered, less exhausted, and less frustrated. So, the tournament happened on Friday. We started with 20 players, 18 of which finished. We played 3 rounds, and then went to a top 4 cut. I started the first round. My first opponent was the gentleman who came second overall. He had a turtle build using 3 cloak mines, an avatar Tomed, an unnamed avatar of Tomed, and used a strategy to move backwards and forwards. I just charged the turtle, quite frankly. I really didn't care. And I had a lot of fun doing so. This was the first match I lost, which was my first match, but I successfully destroyed one of his avatar Tomeds, and I made one major mistake. And this mistake is completely on me. This is not the reason. This is not me blaming the reason for losing, because it would have been a tight game. But I did a red maneuver with an auxiliary. The auxiliary came from a damaged card, so it didn't click in my brain when I did my dial. If I hadn't done that, I like to think I would have won, but you could argue either way. I made a mistake. Definitely cost me the game. May have not won anyway. It was enjoyable. The guy was from the Brighton Wargamers, and he knew how to play the game. Before I continue, let me tell you my builds. So I flew a 4-ship build. 2 Dominion fighters, both with flanking attack. A Vulture with Picard, Will Riker from the Pegasus, and cloak mines. And Worf, Klingon Worf skill 5 on the Prometheus, also with cloak mines. Yes, I like playing with cloak mines. Yes, I had 2 sets. Yes, they were useful. And the question everyone keeps asking, did everyone take cloak mines? I think 2 people didn't, maybe 3, and everyone took 2 cloak mines or 3. In fact, I don't think anyone only took 1. So once I lost that battle and heavily demoralised, I went and attacked Richard. Now, Richard I've known since the first Nationals many years ago, and we've always looked over each other's build, and we've always refused a battle. We've never drawn each other in a tournament before. So Richard's from London. He runs one of the Wayland Games events, and we've been discussing builds for just over 2 years. I am proud to say I beat him. He went in with the 2 battleships, Dominion battleships, heavily tooled up, and a Dominion fighter that was named but nothing else on it. And we just essentially jousted. My mines went in front of him, and I charged through my mines, flanking to attack the first ship, and then turned around and flanking to attack the other ship. I lost my Picard 9 on my Vulture, but 120 points, great game, fairly quick. It was great fun. So then we broke for lunch. We wandered around, came back to discover 2 of the players had dropped out for various reasons. One wanted to go into another tournament, and the other guy had family reasons, so dropped out. And then we came to my 3rd game. This was against David from Scotland. Now, I work in Edinburgh a lot, though I live in Southampton in the UK. I got talking to the Scottish guys, of which Bryan and David were down at the Expo 4, so it's the first time I managed to meet them, because shortly after I started trying to arrange games with them, I was no longer working in Scotland. C'est la vie. Then David was a great game with very even players, I felt. I beat him 120. I don't think he killed any of mine. He may have killed one of my ships. It was a very enjoyable game. It was a very close game, very good manoeuvring. He had... I can't remember the ships he had. I know he had a support Apnex with 3 cloak mines, with a cloak mine on it, and an annoying thing underneath Quark. And then he had 2 other main ships, which were a bit of a bugger to get rid of. So, I finished the first 3 rounds with 3-2. 2 wins and 1 loss. I then went on into the playoffs as 3rd player. I had the highest number of fleet points outside with 2 wins, so that's how I qualified as 3rd. And then, as if someone hated me, I drew the first player I built, again, as the first round in the playoffs. Who was coming through as second. So I played him again. This time, I didn't just do an alright charge at him, I tried to be more tactful. This allowed him to bring his Turtle into play quicker before I got there. Yeah, I lost. I just play rubbish. It wasn't the dice rolls, I just didn't play very well, and I am very bad at playing against turtles. In short, so anyone who doesn't know what turtle means, it's where you build a defensive structure and just stay inside that defensive structure. Everyone has their own opinion about this. It's a valid fleet, and I just played it wrong. So I lost that battle, coming in third overall the day, which I'm quite happy with. This is the third time now I've been third in a Star Trek tournament in the 3 years it's been running. So third out of 3. The TO did his job well. I think I shocked him by having the first question for him was within 2 seconds of the first match starting to clarify a rule. That may be some sort of record. I think as soon as he said go, I shouted TO question. And he only had the rulebook out a couple of times. It was a very enjoyable event. I found it much more enjoyable than last year, mainly because I made less mistakes, though I still claim my playoff game last year was a more enjoyable game, but it was the hardest game I've ever played that last year. And I look forward to seeing you all again, and I'm coming third again hopefully next year, or maybe better. Thanks to everyone who attended, and the event was very well run, with the usual hiccups, such as the room not being set up, but apart from that, it was an enjoyable day. So thanks everyone, and over and out, and speak to you again shortly.
And now it's time for the Warp Core Breach Top 3. We count them up from 3 to 1, and then we toss it over to our contributors, so you get the best bang for your buck. This episode's Top 3, Top Stat Enhancing Cards. So, it's always kind of tricky to narrow things down. There's a lot of ways to boost your stats, shields, attack dice, defense dice, and you know what? There's even more stats than that. There's your firing arcs, and you know what? Because of a contributor, I'm even giving out the number of attacks that you make is a stat. Mm-hmm. So all of those things can go into the core stats of a ship.
The pool of attributes.
Yes. So there's a ton out there. And you know what? We have a lot of good cards that enhance ship stats. And I probably had a pool of like 10 good cards, 10 really good cards. And I'm sitting here going, what do I do to narrow this down? I don't know. And I went with things that I've actually been playing. And
right.
That's kind of my only justification here.
Yeah, I would go too far out on tangents if I widened the pool even as broad as what you just mentioned. So I kept my list down to literal stat points, like the actual ship numbers.
Okay.
I've covered so much in our history of this show between like movement and attacks and things like that I'm going to take the step back and go literal on this one.
Okay. Well, so with that, why don't you kick us off with your number 3?
Well, this is another difficult one. It's pretty hard to put this in a solid top 3, which one's better than the other. Because I think my top 2 would have to be shared, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm going to go with my 3 being... I'm going to go with my number 3 being Hikaru Sulu. Spend an action and gain 2 agility.
Okay. Solid choice there. Absolutely solid.
Kick in a battle station conversion, you can't go too far wrong.
No. I mean, I just did a review of the Tiny Prize on the Shipyard, and of course we just had it re-released, so Sulu's fresh in the mind. And you know what? He came out in Wave 0, and he's still a solid card.
He's not just relevant, he's top tier.
Yeah, unless you're up against Meg Charges, then you're just kind of soft. But
yeah, well, then you have the sadness.
Well, just don't spend your action to Sulu.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Sulu. He was in that pool of really solid cards. He didn't make my list, but he's up there, and I that tells you how deep the well is here. So, my number 3 is Galler class phaser banks.
Nice.
And the rationale for me here is twofold. One, you're getting an extra attack die for fighters, and two, you're getting a range boost.
Yes, that's the most valuable aspect of it, especially considering that it doesn't actually kick in the +1 attack die until you've lost a couple tokens.
Yeah, which, you know what, that's fine by me. Your fighters are there to take hits and lose tokens eventually, and as they're losing tokens, you're gaining defense dice.
Yes.
So now you're keeping your attack up and gaining defense, so you have a shot to live, and that's a good thing. But now you can engage in combat even earlier, and, well, that's even better. Yeah, they're expensive.
Worth every penny.
Yeah, as long as you have those points, they're worth it.
Yes.
All right, so should I hit my number 2 and then let you talk about your kind of conjunction?
Well, I've got my conjunction at spot 1, and I've got a separate for 2, so that's all good. So, I didn't choose flagships simply because the majority of people, that's long retired now. So, slipping into my number 2 spot is the Unimatrix Shielding.
You stole my number 1.
Oh! It's such a grand card.
It really is.
Well, we'll discuss that when we get to your number 1 spot. What's your number 2?
Okay, my number 2 is Type 8 phasers.
Excellent.
Okay, good. I was waiting for you to say that I stole your number 1.
You did, but it's a combination, right? So.
Okay, sure. So
let's talk about the Type 8s and the upgraded phasers, because those are what I mashed in together. Those are my number 1 slot.
Okay, so you're talking about the combo. Let me talk about why I just put Type 8s in there.
Okay.
My rationale for Type 8s is that it can go on any ship you want that fits the criteria. Yes, it's only 1 attack die, but sometimes that's all you need. For instance, putting it on the prototype, you can go cross-faction on it, and that really is the boost that it needs. You put Type 8 and the additional phaser array from the Terex on the Dideradix class.
Yes.
And now you're running 5 attack die Dideradixes. That gets a lot scarier.
Versatility.
Yeah. So the Type 8s are super versatile for me. I'm totally with you that Type 8s plus upgraded on Federation ships are amazing. And I love that combo. So, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, well, with the versatility of the Type 8s, you can cover the spectrum as long as you're open for some faction mixing. The upgraded phasers, getting that +1 and the option of being able to make a second attack against attack squadrons, that's pretty amazing. So you can do double shot on a squadron. Bam. And it's not a really inexpensive card. Like the Type 8 costs 2 points, 3 out of faction. The upgraded phasers is limited to Federation, costs 3 base. So for 3 points, you get +1 attack die and a double attack against squadrons. So let's say you're running the USS Reliant. You're at range 1 of a squadron. You start out at 2. This gives you a +1. The ship ability gives you a +1 as well for the range, in addition to the extra range. So you're going from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and you'd even be at 6 if you had a Type 8 phaser array on top of that. So for 5 points, you go from 2 attack to 6. That's pretty special.
That is. And of course, if you toss Sakona on there as your crew, you're getting discounts. So
yeah, the Type 8 ends up being free. The upgraded phaser's down to 1 point, and you're only paying 3 points for Sakana.
You end up... overall, you save 1 point by using Sakona versus not using her.
As long as you've got the slots to spare, but sometimes you might need to use Sakana to add the weapon slot so you can carry the second upgrade. So
yeah.
You got that flexibility. Yeah, and the main reason why I mashed the Type 8 and the upgraded together isn't for the secondary abilities like cross-faction or the attack squadron, but it helps make those weaker Federation ships more relevant. You know, like you can slap it on like the Raven, you can slap it on the Reliant and other ships and make them more punchy and say, okay, I'm actually going to fly these guys. So you can have a lot more fun with the rest of your fleet you might not otherwise fly.
Oh yeah, I mean, those plus the shield upgrades made the...
Delta Flyer?
Made the Delta Flyer and the Equinox very playable.
Oh, absolutely. I'm still seeing people playing the Equinox with their regenerating shields gimmick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, unless you have a reliable way of making that ship bump, good luck.
Yeah. Tossing Ox tokens, like the Bioship Alpha, for example. You know, you might just disable their shields and not get through, but you're still doing 3 or more damage. They still get the Ox token, so that hardens them for the following turn. So if you can get them a second one through other means, you're laughing.
Yeah, I mean, easy enough to do. Brunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Unimatrix shielding. That's I mean, you're adding 2 shields. That's just an absolutely solid thing. And if you're up against Borg, which, let's face it, Borg are going to see even more play now with this big cube.
Yes.
Being able to pick 2 of their dice that do not count, as long as you can disable 2 shields. That's golden, because you can pick crits.
Yep. Combine that with improved deflector screens on a smaller ship. Whew.
Oh, yeah. And you pick the order there. You can improve deflector screen, and then you can Unimatrix and disable shields. And maybe you have no active shields left, but that doesn't mean that improved deflector goes away. It just means you can't activate it.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's like, people go, wait, you can pick crits first? I'm like, yeah, it says I can pick my dice.
Yep.
Doesn't matter the order.
So add that with like Admiral Hayes, Elizabeth Shelby, and more. You're gonna be able to really survive the board. You just got to know you're facing them.
I mean, the thing is, even if you're not paying 5 points for 2 shields, is still almost worth it.
Right.
I mean, it's 4 points would be the exact thing. And I'll take 1 extra point as a tax for the possibility of having a really good ability against Borg.
Absolutely.
So, no harm there whatsoever. Okay, so for us, it's Galley-class phaser banks, Type 8 upgraded phasers, Unimatrix shielding, and Nick, I forgot your number 3.
Hikaru Sulu.
Hikaru Sulu.
Gotta be TK.
There we go. So, those are our top stat enhancing cards. There's a well of other cards, and I really think that our contributors are going to hit on a great number of those. So contributors, take it away, and then we'll be back with our final thoughts of the day.
Hi, this is Dave Griffin. Today we're talking about the top stat enhancers, cards which can enhance your ship's stats. For me, there are three. In reverse order is number 3, Upgraded Phasers, which is a great card for the Federation, but costs a little bit too much for other factions, and it only works perfectly if your opposition has a fighter squadron. Number 2 is System Upgrade, which is also a great card, but it's restricted to the Feds, and it gives you that extra tech slot along with a free shield. And number 1, Type 8 Phasers, which is able to be used on other factions without too high a penalty, and can make a lot of ships that are marginal in terms of firepower, makes them work. So that's all, and see you guys next week.
Hi, the guys from IOP again. We're back, and now we're talking about our stat enhancing cards. So Dan, take it away.
Well, I had to think about this one for a little bit of time, but I quite like Admiral or Captain, whichever one you want to use. Worf.
Mirror Universe.
Mirror Universe Worf. Yes, indeed. With his ability to give a ship a free attack.
Very good.
I found that very effective against other fleets, and it kind of annoys people at the same time.
Did you take that to our first OP?
No, I didn't. I didn't take Admiral Worf. Didn't have points for Admiral Worf.
But no, that is that's a pretty solid strategy. Well, my favourite stat enhancing card is Unimatrix Shielding. I just love giving things 2 extra shields.
Like your Equinox.
Like predominantly my Equinox. It's the reason why I then went out and bought an Equinox, because I now felt that the Equinox was viable, having 5 shields, I think, instead of 3. It just gives me enough chance to take a round of damage, and then, or round or 2 of damage, and then think about taking a repair shields action. So I really like that. It's worked well for me. And also it's disabling shields when taking hits from the Borg is always nice.
Yes.
And it's,
yes.
I chucked it on an Enterprise Enort as well the other day and gave it 7 shields because I could. And it was quite nice. I ended the game with destroying the other 2 players' fleets, and I just had my Enterprise E left with 1 shield.
So it needed those extra shields.
Yeah, I was also. It was an attack denial build. I had the Xindi captain from the Xindus Colo, I believe, on the science vessel, just taking all the hits that were supposed to be on the Enterprise.
Fair enough.
Yeah, which was good. And the cloak dice were with the science vessel that night. So that is our favourite stat enhancing cards.
This is Out of Arc. This question of the week is the top stat enhancing card. And Anders, this week you brought a really interesting combo. It's more than 1 card, but it gave a very nice stat enhancing. It was +2, I think, on the attack. So why don't you tell us about that?
So the card is the Resource Main Power Grid. This costs 3 +2 for every ship above 3 hull. And it has 2 abilities. One is +2 attack or +2 defense. The attack you have to do 1 damage, and the defense you get an Ox token. For the attack you also have to drop your shields. But this card really synergizes well with the Prototype 01 for attack, where the Prototype 01, because it regenerates, you can take the damage, and so you can do +2 essentially every round. This does incentivize you to have a lower captain skill so that you can be at the end and you can know that you're not going to get hit when you drop your shields and take the damage. This also stacks really well with enhanced hull plating, either the Federation or the mirror version, with the +2 defense and docks. That is +4 defense at the cost of 2 Oxes, and again this works really great on the ISS Avenger because you can always do that. And so that's combo of 4 cards that works really well together.
This is Out of Arc. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm not Picard, and today I'm saying what my top stat enhancing card is. I think it's upgraded phasers rather than Type 8 phasers, because upgraded phasers gives you that extra boost against against ships that are, squadrons. It's a bit of a letdown in as much as it can't cross faction particularly easily because of the extra cost associated with it. I play mostly faction pure, so I don't see that as the biggest problem in the world. But certainly I would say that upgraded phasers are the best stat enhancing card in the game at the moment. But I'm not Picard, so what do I know?
Alright, final thoughts. So, I was watching Girl Meets World this past weekend. Yeah, I know, Girl Meets World. Don't judge me too much. I'm a 90s kid. And they were talking about how we've kind of become this society where everything just revolves around a click and a like and instantaneous gratification, and we watch it and we just move on. And I'm going,
superficial.
Yeah, it really is. It's superficial, and I'm like, yeah, that's so true in my life. Like, how much do I remember of what I did yesterday or 2 days ago? Like, if I was around people, yeah, I remember it. But if I'm just like, how much do I remember of what I saw on the internet?
Mm-hmm. The lather, the rinse, the repeat, the cat videos, and everything else.
Right. Do I even remember the stupid arguments I got into? No. But I probably hurt somebody's feelings, and that doesn't make me feel good. Like, I don't want to be a jerk.
Or vice versa, someone hurting yours.
Right. And it's like, that's just silly. But I don't want to come across as preachy. I mean, I'm internalizing that for me, and I just bring that up to bring it up for my own edification. But what I do want to say is try to take some time and really appreciate the people you can play games with. Maybe it's not always Star Trek Attack Wing. You know, some people are war gamers, some people are role players, some people are
Dice
mini
Masters.
Gamers, some people play Dice Masters, some people play board games. I know I play a ton of board games. I'm going to be doing more board game stuff, but
oh yeah,
you know, people play gamers, and you know what? People matter. People mean more than anything that we do. You know, Nick and I talk about Attack Wing all the time, but we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do this show if it wasn't for people. You know, Nick and I keep each other motivated and encouraged to do this, and our contributors keep us going, and our listeners keep us going, and it really does make a difference. And you know, the folks we play Attack Wing with really make a difference. You know, Nick tells me stories about his play group, and I tell Nick stories about my play group, and it's just fun. But the people matter, and so you know, take time to thank them for playing, and you know, thank your shop owner, because game stores, you know, they're doing you a favor. I know you're doing them a favor by buying product from them, but they're doing you a favor by hosting stuff, and that's a two-way street, and a good relationship with a game store is always a good thing. It's a positive thing, and
support each other.
Yeah, and we're not saying it doesn't have to be the money aspect. I'm saying just go up to your shop owner or whoever's running the counter and say, hey, you know what? Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting us come in and play. Like,
make a human
really
connection.
Appreciate it. You may shock them. They may look at you and go, yeah, you're welcome.
Especially if they got like shag carpeting and you're like throwing static zaps at them too.
Yeah. But so know that these words come from the heart, and they're not meant to be preachy. But I just wanted to say that, you know, people matter. People matter more than things. And
yeah, my group wouldn't be what it is without that human connection. It's like a number of the staff, the store owner, my players, even some of the people that play other games around us, we've made connections with. We've gotten friendly with. Some of them will save tables for us. We'll ask how their game's going. Say, "Oh wow, that's really cool. What just happened there? Do you mind explaining that?" Or "How's it going this week?" Or things like that. Just, it doesn't have to be deep. You don't have to know every last personal detail about their whole family and everything. But just show people that they matter to you, and they'll return the favor. And things just grow from there. Like, I've got a really good relationship with the store, the customers, the players, and yeah, sure, I have my off day. I might rub somebody the wrong way one day. You go back, you apologize, or you have an awesome day and you're sharing all your positive energy and say, "Yeah, I just had an awesome game," and you're going around the store, do your victory lap or whatever, depending on your personality. Share the positive energy, whatever you got. Just be part of your community. That's all.
Yep. Couldn't say it better myself. So.
Mic drop!
There we go. All right. So we're going to end on that. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. And, yeah, let us know. Email us. Talk to us. We love to hear it.
Second start of the right and straight on till Tuesday.
But it's Friday.
It's when the torpedoes come in.
Warp core breach in 10.
It's when the tractor beam
9,
gets installed.
8, 7.
Everything gets
6,
here Tuesday.
5.
Next Tuesday.
4.
This is Nick.
3.
And this is David.
2.
Ejecting
1.
the core.
Warp core ejected.
Warp Core Breach is produced by Nick Norris and David Montgomery, with additional content from our contributors. Our computer is voiced by Corinne Donnelly.
Warp Core Breach is not endorsed, sponsored, or affiliated with CBS Studios Incorporated or the Star Trek franchise. All Star Trek trademarks and logos are owned by CBS Studios Incorporated.
All sound files are used under Creative Commons 3.0 by attribution. For specifics, please visit our Facebook page by searching Warp Core Breach Podcast. If you want to contribute to the show, let us know on the Facebook page, or you can email us at warpcorebreachpodcast@gmail.com.
I'll gladly play you Tuesday for a hamburger today. And yes, I said play.
I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a bottle of Romulan ale today.